Queen's Park Rangers head to playoff secured Sunderland for their final fixture of 24-25 this Saturday. But with Rangers having announced on Tuesday evening that manager Martí Cifuentes has been placed on gardening leave, this is a football match that is very much background noise right now. So while I would encourage you to stick around for my chat with a Love Supreme fanzine's Ben about the Black Cats' playoff chances in the second half of this preview, on this occasion I'm going to attempt to describe and discuss what on earth's going on at QPR first. If you're new to the channel, I'm Connor aka Hoopser. I make QPR match previews, reactions, interviews and features, and in this video we're going to be discussing gardening. So first off, let's quickly recap the sequence of events that have led us here. Last Wednesday, The Sun reported that Martí Cifuentes was considering quitting as QPR manager after a breakdown in his relationship with CEO Christian Nori, with the article suggesting that the Spaniard has grown increasingly frustrated with the direction the club is heading and the decision to allow Director of Performance Ben Williams to oversee the club's sports science, medical, physio and nutrition departments remotely from Dubai. These were claims that Cifuentes would go on to refuse to West London Sports' David McIntyre ahead of last Saturday's 5-0 thrashing to Burnley, responding "Why should I?" when asked if he was considering quitting. He would add to this in his Burnley post-match conference by saying, "As long as I'm wanted, I'm very happy." So maybe it was all one big misunderstanding, right? Well, not exactly, because on Sunday Sky Sports would go on to report that representatives of Cifuentes had held talks with West Brom last week about him potentially becoming the Baggies' next manager. Wind on then to Tuesday and the club would announce that Cifuentes has been placed on gardening leave, with assistant coaches Kevin Betsy and Xavi Khan set to take charge on an interim basis for our final fixture against Sunderland. For total clarity, Wikipedia describes garden leave as the practice whereby an employee leaving a job, having resigned or otherwise had their employment terminated, is instructed to stay away from work during the notice period while still remaining on the payroll. So for all avoidance of doubt, this is very much the key indicator that the end is nigh for Cifuentes at QPR. Midland sports reporter for The Telegraph John Percy would soon add fuel to the fire later that evening, reporting that Cifuentes had not taken training and was on gardening leave amid links to West Brom, later clarifying that this process meant that West Brom or any other club would still have to pay compensation to QPR should they want him as manager. Now this is the key part to understand about QPR's decision to put Cifuentes on gardening leave. For the club, it's all about ensuring they get the compensation they want should he decide to leave for another club, something they wouldn't have received if he'd decided to just resign. The thing is, there's a big flaw to this approach, and it's one that has come about much quicker than I imagine even QPR expected. While Cifuentes is on gardening leave, Rangers can't appoint a new manager because he's still technically in that role. So if West Brom or another club don't end up wanting him, QPR can't progress with appointing his successor until Cifuentes either resigns or the club blink first and sack him. But in doing so, they would have to pay him compensation instead. And as I say, that's a situation that has arisen almost immediately, because John Percy has now revealed on Wednesday that Cifuentes is now not currently on West Brom's shortlist, meaning until QPR sack him or he resigns, no progress can be made on formally recruiting QPR's next manager. It's a situation that has obviously caused immediate division in the fan base, many blaming Christian Nori for the circumstances that have supposedly led to Cifuentes wanting out, while a fair chunk also feel that Cifuentes has been as snaky as Mick Bill has by entertaining other offers before the season is even over. The reality is the blame probably lands somewhere in the middle and we won't ever really know who is truly responsible, but like I said in my Burnley match reaction, there really is no way back from here for Cifuentes as manager. The situation does go some way in reiterating how checked out these owners still appear to be, because the fact that this has been allowed to unfold in public as messily as it has been without their intervention speaks volumes. All we can hope for now is as quick a resolution as possible, because the last thing we need before a squad overhaul in the summer is a standoff between CEO and manager playing out over multiple weeks. Get it sorted, find the next manager who's foolish enough to take on this circus, and get me on a sun lounger. Anyway, let's focus on the last match of the season now. Ben from A Love Supreme magazine joined me to talk through the Black Cat season on the whole, their chances of promotion and his score prediction for Saturday. I think I'll go for 2-0 Sunderland myself. Enjoy the preview chat and I'll see you next time for my Sunderland match reaction. Morning Ben, how are you mate?
Morning, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Obviously, we're here to chat the final game of the season for Sunderland and QPR. Bit of a dead rubber, to be honest, but Sunderland have spent the entire season in the top four, and you've been exactly fourth since the 26th of November. How have you rated this campaign?
So between August to about the end of October, it was really, really good. But it was looking like we were going to be challenging for the title. We were 5 points clear at one point, and then we had this run in November where we drew. I think we drew every game in November, and then maybe except one which we lost. And like a few of those games we probably should have won, like based on how we played. And then after that, it kind of just we never really won. We never won any games as comfortably as we had before. It was always by 1 or 2 goals. It's not that we played particularly badly. It's just before that point we were we'd always play well for the whole 90 minutes or most of the whole 90 minutes. And then it seemed like whenever, especially away from home, we'd turn up for 45 minutes in the second half or maybe 45 minutes in the first half. And then sometimes it would be fine because we'd Swansea is a great example of that. We didn't show up for the first half an hour and we still won 3-2 even though we went 2-0 down. But yeah, I mean, you can't really complain about the season overall because we're fourth and we've already surpassed our points total. We had surpassed our points total for last season months ago. So there's nothing. It's a bit concerning how it's sort of tailed off in the last month or so, especially. But yeah, there's not overall at the end of the season. No matter what happens, fourth place really won't be seen as that bad.
Yeah, I mean, focusing on that last month or so, the Black Cats have lost the last 4 matches in a row. You're winless in 5, having scored once in the process. That's caused no threat to your league position. But are there any fears that that sort of lack of momentum could hinder your playoff chances?
Well, so we've lost our last 4, but I'd say even the first 3 of those weren't too concerning because it was always quite clear what the manager was trying to do, that he was trying to sort of, and with the teams we were putting out, it was always kind of clear that we were putting out a backup team just to avoid injuries to certain key players. So like we had some players who were kind of could have played, but they weren't fully fit, and we were choosing not to play them. We had Joe Anderson starting, who hadn't actually we'd signed him in January of 2023, and he hadn't actually started any games for us. He hadn't played since the last game of the season before last. So it was kind of clear that we weren't going to be, even if we were going to be getting something from these games, we weren't going to be blowing these teams away. And but then we lost. Then we went to Oxford away, and we put a full strength team out, or well, as close to full strength as possible because Romain Mundle's still out. And then we lost. We just got played off the park, and we got beat 2-0. We didn't really offer much. So now people are quite concerned. I'd say overall, there's still some hope that we're going to switch it on, and I think if we can go on Saturday and get a 2-0 win, something like that, something comfortable, I think people will relax a little bit. But if we play poorly again on Saturday, then I think the concern will be that we've left it too late to kind of switch back on.
So focusing on Saturday, who will cause QPR problems at the Stadium of Light, and where on earth can a Martí Cifuentes-less QPR get at Sunderland?
So I think our form player at the moment, if we have any, is probably Eliza Mayenda. He couldn't play on Saturday, well, against Oxford because he had to go through concussion protocols, but he'll be back for Saturday, this Saturday coming up. He's been I don't know if you saw his goal against Bristol City. He's a player capable of causing us causing any team problems. He's a young player though, so sometimes it really depends on whether or not he shows up. He can be a bit inconsistent, but he's been a lot better than last season when we barely played and he couldn't get a game out on loan at Hibs. And then I think where you can cause us problems, defensively, we've looked really sort of. It's weird because we always seem to defend like Bristol City away, for example. We're down to 10 men. We defended well for most of the game, and then it's just like the always, I don't know why, but there always seems to be someone you can point to as to who's caused the goal we've conceded. So against Oxford, so the first or second goal, one of the first goal, actually the second one as well, but the first one is because both Chris Meffam and Luke O'Nien went to head the ball clear and just neither of them committed. And then the second one, Patterson just palmed it into their attacker after he saved the initial shot. So it's kind of like I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's just like we always seem to have these moments in games that lead to goals being conceded. The midfield has been a bit sort of non-present in the last few weeks. I think a bit of that has been, as I've mentioned, like people are just scared of getting injured. Like whenever there's a loose ball, we just seem not to be on it as much as we used to be. So if I think if QPR showed a bit of commitment, they probably can get something from the game.
Let's get your playoff prediction then. Are Sunderland going up? And if so, who are you beating in the final?
I have got absolutely no idea how to predict that because we've got five team. I think it's five teams we can still technically play in the semi-final.
Yeah.
So that I mean, it's like Bristol, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Blackburn, Millwall. I think are the five teams. Um, if it's Coventry, we're going out in the semis. We never beat Coventry. We haven't beaten Coventry since 2000 and something. It's been a while. Saying that, we never seem to beat Bristol City either. I think we've beaten them once since we've came back up to the championship. And it's a long journey down there. I guess the same applies for them coming up here, so maybe that'll help us out. But so we just never seem to beat them very often, especially at home for whatever reason. Middlesbrough have been a bogey team the last few years, but we beat them twice this season. So, but the odds of us actually playing them are quite low. And then Millwall are managed by Alex Neil, so losing to a former manager in a playoff semi-final will be quite. I think that would be quite Sunderland of us. But I'm quite confident. Like, I think if we can, because the first leg will be away from home. If we can get a draw away from home, I'm quite confident we'll get through to Wembley. I'm not so confident that we'll win at Wembley because chances are I feel like it will be Sheffield United in the final, and obviously like a team with Sheffield United's quality can pose some problems, even if they have been offered for a couple of months now, I think. Although I haven't actually looked at the results, that might not be right, but they have tailed out of the automatic race. So predictions, I'm going to be optimistic and say we get to Wembley. I don't think we'll win at Wembley though. But then it's a one-off game, so anything can happen.
Well, Ben, thank you for joining me for this preview. Finally, and much more interestingly, of course, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
I do think we'll win. I don't think we'll win by a lot because we just don't seem to do that very often. So I'm going to say 1-0, just quite a boring sort of dead rubber preseason vibe about about the game. So yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you again, Ben, and good luck for the playoffs.
Thank you.